Okay, everyone, so in this next lesson, I just want to talk about expressions. I've already created the expressions.php here, and this is a very important building block of learning PHP. And just to compare this with the English language, we know that expressions is composed of different parts of a speech. And expressions can be a group of words used in a particular situation. So we do have nouns, pronouns, verbs, and that will be signifying a complete thought. And that's going to be similar with how we work with PHP or any programming language. We have to understand what are the expressions that are found in the programming language that we're learning. The only difference here, as I mentioned, you may have heard me say that when you're learning programming, you're actually talking to the computer. You're giving instructions to the computer. An expression is any combination of values such as literal or variables, operators, and methods that will be returning a single value. So in PHP, the simplest way to define an expression is through defining it with anything that has a value. So similar with the English language, in English, we have what we call sentences, right? And sentences or a statement will contain a complete thought. That's the main idea of trying to read code base. So it's really important that we understand that we are trying to communicate with the computer. In English, the other human person will be trying to understand you. However, with the computer, when we're talking with the computer will not be able to understand and will run into an error if we make a mistake with the instructions that we are trying to give it. So let's say I would want to say here the cat. And this is not a proper sentence in English. We know that because if you're talking with someone, the cat, and you just say the cat. So what about the cat? We don't have any verb, adjective. We know that this is a noun. However, it doesn't have any other parts of speech, such as a verb or adjective or adverbs that will be describing us or giving us more detail about the cats or details about the cat. So it's not a complete thought. So same with if we just say this will have nothing, or this will not be clear to the PHP parser, right? Or the compiler. What is this? What is that A? We're not declaring it as a variable. So most probably, if we go back to our browser and check out our lessons here for expressions, we will have an uncaught error undefined constant A in line 14 or on line 14. We need to give more details to the PHP parser for it to know what are we trying to tell it. So going back here, we have here undefined constant. And for us to be able to create a basic form of expression, that will be us declaring a variable and then assigning it a value. So we can actually do here, so this will not be clear to the PHP parser, but here if we declare a variable, and then what's going to happen first? Let's try to just explore a little bit. So we don't see any error, but nothing's getting displayed. So we have an expression right now when we declared a variable. So this is us declaring a variable. That's a single expression. Then if we assign a value to A, assigning a value so of 5. So this is another expression. So what are we going to get? Of course, we won't get anything because we're not echoing anything yet on the screen. So let's have echo $A. What are we going to get? Just for a little bit of exploration. So we do get that number 5 on the browser. And we can also, so right now we have assigned a value, or assigning or initializing. Those are some words that sometimes you might hear interchangeably when you're learning a programming language. So here we have an expression. The declaration of the variable A that we initialize with the value of 5 is an expression. So in other words, if we want to go and try to have a declaration of a variable B and we assign it the value of A, what are we going to get if we echo out $B? This, now we have talked about in the previous lessons that a variable can contain information of different data types. In this case, we have a constant integer value, or we have an integer data type that we are storing in the variable A. And right now, we're storing the value of A to the variable B that we initialize with the value of A, which is, we know that it's number 5 or the integer 5. So if we try to echo out B, what should we get? We should be getting another 5. And just to clear things out here, just to have a bit of a distinguishment, let's have a line break. And we now should be able to see 5 on 2 lines. There we go. So we do have 5, 5, and that's what we're expecting. We know that what we're echoing here is the value of the variable a with a value of 5. And here we're assigning the value of a to b. So we now have that 5 being echoed out and displayed on our browser. Now going back to the English statement that I talked about, we know that statements in English will be consisting of different components like the subject, the verb, object or complement, modifiers. So if we have a sentence like, for example here, the cat, or let's just print that out. Perhaps we can have a echo of an HR here, and then let's have a echo for, let's have an, just to practice some of the things that we've already learned in the past. Let's have here or a paragraph. The cat is agile, is fast and agile. And let's have that. And then let's have here PHP code block. So that's possible. We should be able to see the cat is fast and agile. And in here, we can have an echo of the cat. We know which is going to be a subject. And we'll put it inside of a paragraph tag. I'll just go get this echo break here. Or we can also have a line break here. And then the cat is a subject, is verb, fast and agile, and adjective complements. We do have here adjective complements, right? So we have different parts of speech that we can find in one statement. So if we wanted to work with statements in a programming language, that's the same mindset that we would want to figure out. Especially when we're reading code base, we would want to find expressions. So this is an expression, this is an expression when we declare a variable, when we assign a value to a variable, and when we try to evaluate a value to a variable. So that means if we go and put this here, and then just make sure this has a semicolon, we should have, let's just type that here just to get our hands dirty and practice our coding exercises here. Let's have Alt Z. And in here, we know that we would want to have in PHP or in other programming language like JavaScript, a statement will have expressions, and expressions will have operators and operands. So we'll talk more about operators and operands as we move forward with learning expressions and lessons that we will be having in the future. But just have that in mind, a statement will have expressions, and expressions will have operators and operands. So you saw earlier that here, we're trying to identify if we're reading and we're trying to understand what another person is writing in the English language form, or if somebody is trying to talk to us, right? We would want to identify. I'm not an English major, by the way, but this is just the idea that I want you to at least have when you're learning a new programming language. You would want to find expressions, what is the statement in that programming language, and what will be the parts of a speech of that specific language that you're learning. So if we try to break down here the details of this sentence or this statement, which is going to be a complete thought, we have the article or the definite article, the cat is the noun, is the verb, and we have an adjective which is fast, and a conjunction and another adjective which is agile. And we end each of our sentences with a period. And that's similar with PHP. We have a string literal here, and we do have an end of statement that involves the semicolon. That's just meaning we have a complete thought here. We want to echo out the string literal that is contained inside of the double quotes that we have here. So just have that in mind. We want to go and try to figure out how that is going to be read by the PHP parser. And another example that I just want to set up here would be, so let's just talk a little bit about operators and operands. So when we say operators, these are like keywords in the programming language that you're learning, programming language. So that can be in any programming language. You will have to look for operators, and operands are like custom. So it's like an identifier. Operands are like identifiers that we as a programmer give or make, right? So as an example, an operator will be, let's say I have a $C, and assignment operator. This is going to be the assignment operator. That's one example. And we have the data type 10. And operands will be, if we have here D, and let's give this a value of 20. And then let's go A, B, C, D, E. And let's have a complete expression again here. We'll have 3 expressions. We want to have $C plus $D. So what will happen if we try to echo out $E, or the variable? So if we try to look into this, we have again an expression as declaring a variable. Another expression will be as assigning a value or initializing a value to that variable. And one more thing that we can take note of is that when we try to evaluate a value, that's going to be another expression. So here we have declaring the variable, assigning the variable, and evaluating the result of C plus D. So that should now be producing what number? We do get the 30 value. 10 plus 20 is equivalent to 30. So here we have a single statement that contains a number of expressions. And I just wanted you to have that. We have 3 expressions all combined. Again, variable declaration of E. We have an evaluation of C plus D. We're adding 2 values together that will be performing the addition of C and D, which contains or which have the value of 10 and 20. And we are getting the result of B plus C as we try to assign it to E. And when we echoed out the value, we do get the value of 30. So in this example, we do have the operators. So this is the statement. Statement will have expressions. And we have 3 expressions here. 1, variable declaration, evaluating 2 values, and assigning it to a variable is another expression. And we do have our operands, which we can call whatever we want, right? So I can say that this is going to be, as long as it's not a keyword, it. And this can be cat. This can be dog. I can call this whatever I want. Operands can be things that we would want. Warning, cat, dog, it. And we should have it here. And we do get that 30. Just have that in mind. We are trying to break down this statement by trying to identify what are the expressions and what will be the operators and operands that composes the expressions that completes the statement in our line of code here. Just take note, of course, when you're making your operands or when you're trying to create some operands, there are best practices out there that you can try to follow for you to be able to write clean and efficiently your PHP code. It has to be, especially for variables like the ones that we have here, we need to be giving them meaningful names or meaningful or declarative names that will be giving a much easier way for variables and operands to be self-explanatory. That will be helping you and other people who will be working in your code base understand the purpose of each of these variables. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you got some ideas about what expressions are, and at least this will be getting the ball rolling for you when it comes to reading some code base. So thank you, and see you on our next lessons.